Joe Zerflu, alderperson. If you want to go around the room, state your name and affiliation.
Lee Graff, alderperson.
Peter Castenholz, municipal judge.
Paul Lawler, public works superintendent.
Sue Shell, city attorney.
Scott Kelly, Alderman.
Adam Tagan, Community Development.
Joe Cherry, Director of Public Works.
Tim DeSorsi, Finance Director.
Krista Kuhn, Heart of Wisconsin Chamber of Commerce.
Heather Sayers, Heart of Wisconsin Chamber of Commerce.
Corey Infinson, Encourage.
Thad Kubiszak, alderperson.
And Rick Pacoka, President of Reggie.
And Jake Katnaugh, alderperson.
Shane Blazer, Alderperson.
Paul Shabilsky, city clerk.
Agenda item number 2, consider approving and continuing financial support for the Regional Economic Growth Initiative. You want to start?
Thank you. And thanks for having me again tonight. I gave you packets last meeting, so you all had a chance to review. A couple of years ago, when I first took over Reggie position, I came here and I talked to you, Finance Committee at the time, and that committee challenged me to do a bunch of things to prove that value, to have metrics. And I think I'd come back here tonight, and the letter that I gave you and the work that Reggie's doing here in central Wisconsin is providing that metric. From the regional approach and the collaborative approach that we do now, there are many specific examples, but I think one of the things that's working especially well is, for example, the Central Wisconsin Summit, Rural Economic Development Summit that we had May 10th, where we had more than 120 people come and listen to the opportunities and the enthusiasm and the innovation that's happening here in central Wisconsin, specifically Wisconsin Rapids. We coined the term Our Central Place. It was well received, and I got a lot of feedback and a lot of follow-up after that. But what it delivered to Wisconsin Rapids in our region was a chance for people to share in the positive narrative. That this is no longer the community of no, that we are looking forward, we are planning for our future, and that we are inclusive as an area, as a region, from Wisconsin Rapids, a little bit north, a little bit south, a little bit east, a little bit west, and together as that region, we are providing that, showing that we can provide the strength to lobby the state of Wisconsin and get funds for like our airport to get the development that's down in Adams County up here, and our rooms full, and our motels full, and the people visiting our area. As I've said many times, the people that are flying into our airport, they bring a bunch of things to us. They bring affluency, which is very important. That's disposable income. But they didn't get that affluency because they work for an hourly wage. They get it because they have connections to business. And we have 70,000 visitors coming to this region this year alone, and only 1% of them is inclined to do business here. That's 700 opportunities to share our region with the rest of the world. And lastly, those folks come here, they see what a high ethic character population we have here, our ability to do and complete work. They like us, but what they bring that's most important is ideas, something we desperately need here. They look around and they say, gosh, with all this going for you, why aren't you doing this? I have a friend, can I bring him here? Who do I talk to? And how do we get affiliated here in this region? And I think all of those things are positives for Wisconsin Rapids. There was 90 planes that landed at the airport in June, if you didn't get the airport report. Fuel sales up 313% over last year, which was up almost that much over the year before. So the people are coming here, they're staying here, they're liking us. That Rural Economic Development Summit provided those that choose to express their opinions on Facebook an opportunity to challenge those who are continually negative, and that's really what we're looking for, is to continue that positive narrative so that we develop the public will for moving forward as well as that political will, and they are involved in those discussions. So if any of you have any questions, what I'd ask for you tonight is to approve that continuing support so that we can take that in front of the Common Council. Reggie is busy developing other financing sources. We're working on them. One of the things that we had to do, as we've done for you and the county, is show that we're providing value for the money that's invested in us, and we're continuing to do that. We're getting more and more private investors all the time. We are working on projects that we can get money from WEDC, capacity. capacity and capacity building. And lastly, one other thing that I promised 2 years ago when I spoke to all of you was that I would be done at the end of my term on Rome Town Board. I am done. I am no longer affiliated with the town board or officially any of the committees. I am ex officio for Wood County, Adams County, Town of Rome CDA. I still liaison to the Sand Valley Golf Resort. I'm also on the Synergy Board of Directors, and I'm currently Vice Chair of North Central Regional Planning. All of those EDO groups just benefits the relationship building and the capacity building that Reggie's able to do across the entire central Wisconsin region.
Any questions for Rick?
I guess maybe for Jake and Lee and some of the new ones, they may not even know what Reggie is and what we're doing, or?
I'm somewhat familiar. I do have some questions on it, and they mostly revolve around the regional part of it. And I know what our city is potentially going to give. One of my biggest questions is, what are the other municipalities around us giving?
When Reggie was formed, it started with a $200,000 grant from, and I turned that budget in.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't have to.
And so Reggie fed off of that for a while as we worked to show value to communities. So originally we set up, Jake, to assign a value for Reggie's services by the equalized value of the communities. We're going to have a meeting tomorrow and we're going to reestablish a different sort of value. What Reggie's been doing a lot of is strategic planning and forward economic development planning. Work with Saratoga, we worked with Port Edwards, the city of Nakusa. Next week, Wednesday, I'll be at the city of Pittsville, Committee of the Whole. That'll be my 4th meeting up there with the city of Pittsville. And all of those things center around available housing development and how the cities can get developers and advantages to having that workforce development and economic development. I'm facilitating right now a major manufacturing sale in Nakusa, all the way down to small subway type sales, getting those folks connected, because there's now someone that they can come to and say, where do I go to do this? And then I get them started. And when we go up to Pittsville, Craig Bernstein, manager of workforce and economic development at Midstate, will be coming along. Jason will be coming along. Melissa Miskey from Small Business Development Corporation and UWSP will be coming along. And we show a united front for this region wherever we go. And we're not exclusive of anyone, whether they contribute or not, but we're inclusive of those and that positive narrative.
Okay. So, I mean, you mentioned there's a value system that doesn't necessarily drive the activity you're putting behind each individual municipality. So, I mean, I look at the budget, looks like we're giving a little more than some of the surrounding areas. Do we get more time allotted from Reggie for that, or where is it?
Part of the collaborative approach that I've taken with Reggie is I make sure that all the communities know that Reggie's available, but I'm never one to say, let me, I only go where I'm asked to go, but I always make sure that they know I'm available. And some of the things we've done for Rapids have been very beneficial for Rapids.
And again, I'm new. What are
Yep.
some of the
So Grand Rapids is around the 10,000. Wood County's around 30,000. Town of Rome is somewhere in the middle. Saratoga was the first-time contributor this year. They're around the $5,000 level. And as we provide services, we're going to have a little bit of more of a menu or direct services provide. And I can see as we move forward with private providers that budget that you saw is going to become a lot more balanced between private and municipal. It was never the intention to have the municipals carry the entire load but it's still just a little bit harder yet to show the private side of the value that's coming in. And I'm talking finance, real estate, and stuff like that. So we're continually working on that, and as we get our project stages going, we'll be showing you where your money is going, matching money and getting more from like the Wisconsin organizations. So we're just on the cusp, I feel, of breaking out, and your support is actually really critical at this time.
Well, one more question. Just what is the plan for the next year? So we approved this funding. As far as Wisconsin Rapids goes specifically,
As far as Wisconsin
what do you
Rapids
have laid out?
We're working on continuing to develop the airport so that the visitors come in, have a broader view of what's available for them, not just at their supposed destination, but for the things that are happening here. continuing work with the Visitor Bureau here. The money that's for Reggie comes out of the room tax, as I understand. So we work closely with the Visitor Bureau. Especially as the paper mills change hands, is the relationship building and the capacity building that comes with that, to make sure they're welcome and that there's another face here. I 25 years in the paper industry, so been in all those mills and all that stuff, and talking to them, it's just another face of continuity here. YMCA Boys and Girls Club, it's a huge project for you guys. As you heard at the Economic Development Summit, Brett and Kent are very active in that. Also with Steve Berlin and Mariani and Solaris and Cyber One in Port Edwards, and pulling those all together so that the community of Wisconsin Rapids doesn't always define itself by the municipal borders, but by that central place that is the region, and that's crucial to your growth.
I guess I'm not opposed to the Reggie, obviously, but my concern is, a taxpayer, we're paying into Reggie, economic development with Adam and the mayor, and Jason, so it looks like we're as taxpayers, we're funneling tax dollars into 4 of similar type positions. So obviously I'd like to see, hopefully over time, sooner versus later, is that shift more over to private, and our contribution, I'd like to start seeing almost go away, to be honest with you, being that it seems like we're already paying for, or putting money into positions within the city for that. So whether we take that out in our budget, which I think is tied in with other positions, so that doesn't make sense. So I'd like to see that happen.
One of the things though, Shane, is Wood County doesn't even have an economic development committee yet. And so Jason is more, he does zoning, planning, and permitting on a county level. There are a lot of opportunities that he simply doesn't have the time to chase. Same thing with this fine employee right here. His task is definitely boundarized by the municipal limits, where Reggie can bring in and out and provide support, and extra staff, and an extra voice, and an extra narrative.
Do you guys regularly meet, I guess?
Yes.
People of similar.
Yes.
Okay.
And I mean, in full disclosure, I'm also one of the Reggie board members. So as the city, in addition to supporting, has allocated my time to support the Reggie board as well.
Oh, okay. Back when I was here before, it was kind of just taken off, and you weren't in the position yet. And then I kind of had a hiatus there, so that gray area, I don't know what happened. And but I would like to see at least a shift towards private, because obviously when I look at $20,700, I want to get $20,700 worth of work. Just like the county, probably $30,000, but I know it's hard to do in that sense.
At the end of 18, and certainly through 19, as this money comes out of the room tax, it's certainly fairly easy to show the increase in room tax for the city of Wisconsin Rapids since the start of Sand Valley. And I talked about that before. Even without motels in the town of Rome, their room tax gone from $8,000 2 years ago to over $300,000 this year. And certainly Rapids is getting a substantial share of that, because since May 1st, there haven't been any rooms at Sand Valley. They've all been coming into Wisconsin Rapids. So there is certainly a measurable return to the city just in that metric alone.
But that shift is rapidly changing as building and construction happens in Sand Valley.
There won't be any more lodging that occurs on the grounds in the foreseeable future. The things that Rapids are seeing, from the plane crews and the ones that they come in, they stay overnight here, and then they hop on the plane in the morning, I can only see that growing. There's nothing in the next phase of Sand Valley for substantial lodging increase. They only have like 83 rooms. They're going to have some housing development there that's going to add to the TIF increment, which is just going to explode the increment. But you need the other motel to reopen, and I see you having an opportunity for more overnight lodging here.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to see that shift, or at least in my mind, to justify having where we're paying multiple people. I think obviously their level of time being able to spend on that is limited, where that is your full-time position, but. okay.
And the other side of that, Shane, and you know me, because you know I've lived in this area my whole life.
Yep.
And Mayor and Adam and I have talked that for someone that's my age who's lived here their entire life, I have a pretty good idea of the history of the town. And I speak often that I was a paper boy in downtown on the west side when I was 14 years old. So I remember all of what got tore down and all of what was there, and the socialness of the downtown area along with the river and what's gone away and what we're trying to restore. So some of that history to some of the folks that come new into the area is kind of interesting, and it helps them bond to the Wisconsin Rapids and our culture here.
Yep.
I would,
Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna make a quick comment. I think one of the benefits of Reggie, and it is really an intangible, and I think, and I didn't take the opportunity to read your report, so maybe it's contained in the report, but some of the intangibles are, as people and businesses look to place themselves in a region, if there are synergies between the municipalities and between the business parks, and there's a regional outlook, that goes a long ways for those that are looking to be placed somewhere or place their business somewhere. So I think there are some real advantages of a regional approach, and that and that some service, some regional service like what Reggie provides is good. I would hope that, like you had suggested, that there's, I was one of the founding board members, that there is a much more private sector financial involvement. I also would like, I think it'd be healthy for the county also to, for their planning and zoning department to also include some economic development portions. And I know that they use Reggie extensively for that now, but it really does benefit the whole region when folks know that we are all trying to work together.
Yeah, I mean, I get the whole regional effect, and I think what Shane's kind of getting at, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that, we have a community development director, we have a community development specialist. So, and that goes to, even though it's within our municipal boundaries, it benefits the region, especially being the major economic hub in the region. And I think it's just more of getting kind of some credit for that in-kind match, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to some of the other smaller municipalities that they need your expertise because they don't have a staff member that can do that. And I think that's what kind of maybe Shane was getting at a little bit.
And you're correct, and maybe I didn't put it so eloquently, but, I'd like to see those municipalities start to maybe put more into it, because they're, I think, kind of utilizing your services more, being that we do have those services.
And that's what we're gonna talk about at our meeting tomorrow. We're just now, Shane, getting in a position where we can justify that value to the surrounding municipalities. A couple of you guys are fairly new. Joe can attest that, when Rapids and Buren were arguing about their bike trail connection, that was probably gonna go into the dumpster until we started saying, yeah, we need to have some more meetings here. We can't let that opportunity go away. And so it's the connectivity that Reggie brings to those municipalities back to Rapids, and the unlikely or likely occurrence that something may not go as well as planned.
Hate to say this, didn't we pay for that bike trail though?
It's kind of shared.
I guess.
Yeah, you did, but so did Buren. But Lord knows that we wouldn't want to be 15 years down the road and have the bike trails stop or be like this, and somebody say, "Who was the dummies that were in charge when that was put together?" I'd rather see it be a success.
I would just second what Tim and they said, and that I would like to see more contribution from the private sector, and then eventually more from the municipalities around us that are benefiting it, especially if we're doing.
Because it makes sense that they're collaborating and putting it together to fund, because obviously each municipality can't afford to have their own.
Right.
Where, unfortunately, we can, our own one or two, and so it would make sense to
and I think
shift away from us. And
I think some of the public's perception, whether it's true or not, is that we are having people fly in and just hit it down to Adams County, and we're not seeing any return on it. And like I said, whether that's true or not, maybe we need to build awareness on that, because I mean, taxpayers see this $20,000 going to Reggie, and if they were to feel or not see the facts behind, we are getting some benefit of that can put a bad taste in people's mouths. So.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to add, and it's kind of been touched on, but more and more Reggie wants to move more towards project-based funding, which I think is getting to what several aldermen are saying, that if, let's say it's Saratoga, they want a long-range plan or a specific project, that there is a fee associated with it. Yes. So yes, there's a membership fee, but then if there's above and beyond your typical service, really trying to capture that so that if there is an imbalance between township versus the city, that Reggie is basically fiscally being responsible in that manner. And then that's also how we'd like to target some of the private funding. A lot of the businesses we've talked to, they've said, yes, we're interested, but we need something kind of to hang our hat on. So we're going to be working with a grant writer as well to try and find some of those specific projects, whether it's a project that helps attract people to the area or helps an employer retain someone, so that it's something tangible that we can put before an Aspirus or a Renaissance or someone like that and say, this is what we want to do. Will you help us fund this to get it up and running, because they can see that tangible benefit. It's just been unfortunately a long slog to get there, but more and more there's the realization that the municipals have done their due. The county has ponying up a lot of money. Rapids is ponying up a lot of money. We need to begin to transition over.
How far out is the transition? So if we put this forward this year.
I'd like to see a reduction start coming next year.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, that would be a goal.
Yes.
I'm not going to say, I can't sit here and look in a crystal ball and say, yes, everything's going to fall into place perfectly, and that's the goal, but I do know that's more and more.
That's what we're working toward, you and both the county. Because without that kind of startup money, we wouldn't be able to continue. And so what Encourage has done is they've made an in-kind donation to us to allow us to use their grant writer for those specific projects. So in the meantime, Rapids and Wood County's contribution has allowed us to build relationships with WDC, with Tim Weber, and the legislative lobby. So, and that's one other thing you probably, it would be hard to put a value on, is the connections that we have with the local legislators and what they depend on Reggie and some of us for information, and how focused they are on central Wisconsin's development right now. It's really a good thing from Madison's perspective.
Wish we saw some of the fruits of it.
I
We did
appreciate
this at 14.
I appreciate the budget, because I was always kind of curious. There is a $75,000 difference. How's that made up? Is that through Encourage? From 75 from what?
The $150,000 budget, there's 75 municipal in dollars, and then
We
the
have
other 75.
some stuff coming yet that we're
Oh,
working on.
okay.
The fundraising is year-round. So right now we have some initiatives out there that I'd rather not say where they are.
Right.
Part of that 75,000 would be Wisconsin Rapids' contribution for 18, which we waited till the
Right.
second half of the year to ask for. And
I didn't know if there was a funding source outside addition to that, or.
as we speak, we are working on those.
Oh,
And
okay.
when I was up at Pittsville's not a contributor. And so this will be 4 meetings up there, and it was about 20 minutes into our meeting on Monday, and they says, well, how can Pittsville be a contributor to Reggie?
Okay.
Saratoga did the same thing. We started working on some of their stuff. How can we be a contributor? What's a great starting amount? I says, okay, I want to continue to show you value. This is what we need to do. They cut a check instantly. So
Okay.
we're really making progress there.
Oh, I didn't know if, okay. I just thought that you had the whole 150 and we're just half of it.
Oh, no, it's kind of an ongoing collection.
It's fluid, okay. Pass the hat.
Yes.
Okay.
Lee?
Rick, how you doing?
Good.
I was wondering, I thought you I had a conversation with Rick. I went to the summit and then conversations after, but I thought you put it really well. Is currently what the chamber offers the city as opposed to what Reggie offers the city. Maybe we can touch upon that, because I thought that really kind of cleaned it up.
Chamber is for, and with Krista and Heather sitting here. The chamber responds to existing businesses and markets opportunities for them. There are always opportunities to expand or change ownership or start new. And many times those that start new don't have a clear pathway of how to do it. Those are a lot of the phone calls that I get. I would tell you that Sand Valley uses Higher Ground Bakery exclusively for all of its bakery goods. They're a huge success story. Melissa and I go to business retention visits. We go to Ron's Refrigeration. After that, I've been able to add Ron's Refrigeration to Sand Valley's bid list. We're on pace to go out to talk to Golden Eagle. And every time we go to those, as I see need and connection, Reggie's been able to connect them and get them in front of people, Next Gen, over in our CH building. We've made a lot of those connections, and I can show you emails after emails after emails of Rapids businesses who've been able to proceed along their way. We connect them with the financial people, and it's a lot of marvelous stories, but most of those will never make the Daily Tribune, and most of those will never get talked about publicly.
When you said you're a liaison to Sand Valley, what do you mean by that?
When I was on the town board, I was at Town of Rome's. I was assigned to work with the developer to complete the developer's agreement and the PUD zoning.
On behalf of the
on
township.
behalf of the town of Rome, and then I chaired the TIF committee. I'm no longer officially in those positions.
Right. So you're no longer a liaison to Sand
No,
Valley?
just as a relationship status, and kind of.
Right, you don't get paid by them?
No,
or any
there's
benefits or anything from
matter of
that?
fact.
Sure.
No, and absolutely not. Don't even go there. No, and we were very clear about that, and I don't have no problem going on record that developer not even so much as bought me a beer. That's not me doing that, and so nothing like that changed hands when I was on the board. And as of right now, I even refrained from asking them to support Reggie while I was on the board, so that it didn't look like it was counterproductive. Since I've been off the board in April, I've reached out to them in conglomerate with Kemper Sports and Oliphant, and we're still discussing some of that. Didn't think it was appropriate, and I certainly didn't think it was legal.
All right.
Did that?
Yep.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
I'll make a motion that we approve the request with the caveat that I hope to see it start reducing next year. And
I'll second that motion also with the caveat.
There's a motion and a second to approve continuing financial support for Reggie. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you. Comments, and I know he reached out, we had a great conversation the other day, more than willing to talk to any of you.
oh, good, thank you.
Item number 3, consideration approving modifications to the current zoning fee schedule.
Probably not as exciting as I apologize. But I guess to be very brief, there are some new policies, new procedures that are part of that new zoning code. Some of those things are not addressed in our current fee schedule, and since we're looking at our current zoning fee schedule, I did try and simplify it some. So there are some other changes that maybe it's an existing process, but really trying to get away from a sliding scale type of fee base to just this is the fee. It makes it easier for anyone who is going into it, and quite honestly, conditional use that's 1 acre versus 5 acres, it's the same amount of work for my department to process that application, so it just makes more sense, I guess, in my mind to go with a flat fee. So I did try and make it as easy to understand with the current fees, if they exist, and the proposed fees. And then I think I also included I did a quick survey of Markfield, Stevens Point, and Wausau, just to kind of give you an idea where we are in the region. Overall, I think we're pretty much right where they are. Some fees we may be a little bit higher, others were a little bit lower, but in general, I think we're pretty consistent. So overall, just looking for approval to update our zoning fees as proposed in the referral.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second. There's a motion and a second to approve the modifications as presented. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Item number 4, consider approval of a resolution approving a development agreement with Arbor Terrace, Wisconsin Rapids LLC for the development of real estate at 301 7th Avenue South, the Centralia Center parking lot, as provided for in the vacant land offer to purchase previously approved with North Point Development Corporation.
And I'm sure Sue will interject in this as well, since she developed the agreement. But yeah, this is basically the next phase for the North Point Senior Housing Development. We had the agreed upon offer to sell that property. Just a couple of things I would point out, I guess, in the proposed development agreement. Number one is the inclusion of a development fee that is intended to offset the time and effort that the city staff has done in developing on this project. It's similar to what was, it's actually the same amount of that we collected when we did the development at 16th and Pepper. Then responsibilities, we just want to clearly outline that any existing utilities that need to be relocated, any new utilities, that's all on the developer. Because this is in an existing parking lot, the Centralia parking lot, there's going to be some modification of the city parking lot going on at the same time. So we are trying to work with the developer to try and keep our costs down and ideally keep their costs down as well. So things like working, so if the city crews are removing asphalt and curb and gutter, if the timing works well for the developer, the city crews may do that, but then that time and material would be charged back to the developer, so we wouldn't be spending taxpayer money to support the development. We would actually be getting that back to cover our costs. Because we had a parking lot designed completely and we were ready to go on that before this opportunity came forward, North Point is offering to basically come up with the new final designs for that parking lot. So their engineers and designers will actually design the new layout as has been proposed and then provide us the final plans so that we can submit those to DNR for reapproval. So that's an added benefit to the city as well. And then as we go forward to actual bidding out the pavement and the curb and gutter, again, if it works out with the developer timing, what we'd like to do is bid the two projects together and hope that with the higher quantities and the higher, bigger project that we can actually keep our costs down as well. So those are all incorporated into this. All this is contingent on them moving forward by the end of this year with the project. So, I don't know if there's anything else to add, but that is the proposal before you.
Did you have anything, Sue?
I didn't have to come from my vacation, it looks like.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. I guess the main points to, are what Adam had talked about regarding the parking lot, just kind of figuring, because it's obviously not gonna be just their parking lot and isolated from the Centralia lot, so there'll be need to be some coordination and making sure that their part of it is recovered or reimbursed to us, so.
Well, then I'll make a motion to approve the resolution of the development agreement with Arbor Terrace, Wisconsin Rapids LLC for the development of real estate at 301 7th Avenue South by North Point Development Corp.
Second that.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Lee?
I wonder if this is necessarily appropriate, being that the letter we got from the Boys and Girls Club and concerns of parking. If this should necessarily be talked about or voted on now, or if we should move this down and have a discussion about that first to make sure that we know exactly what's going on.
And obviously the committee can do as they see fit. Ultimately, yes, in my mind, they're really two different issues. We haven't accepted sale of that property. This is really outlining what is specifically happening on their property or the property that we agreed to sell to North Point. The discussion on additional parking spaces and that type of thing, that's on the Centralia parking lot, which is not the subject of this development agreement. So while they're related, I guess they're also not related in my mind. But again, I would agree with what the committee wants to do.
I got the same letter, and last year, was it last year or early this year? The Y did express some concern, and Courage was here as well. And we worded it so this agreement basically only covers, the Y was fine with it. The portion of the parking lot, stop me if I'm getting this tangled up, but the North Point development actually doesn't encroach on the Y's development. I think that issue was more for what we're doing with the parking lot. Does that sound right, Sue?
Right, and the
So-
ability, right.
So it's not, this development, we specifically included in the motion that it was not, there were stipulations made to kind of protect the Wise development, and also Encourage had some interest too, that we tried to protect as well.
I just don't wanna see moving forward with something until we as aldermen have the opportunity to make sure that the Encourage Foundation and their needs, the YMCA and their needs, North Point and their needs, and that we fully get what's going on. I'm sure just like you received a
Yep.
letter.
Well, I have the benefit of being on the committee 2 years too,
Yep.
so I totally understand. That was just my understanding, I guess, I wanted to share. I don't know if someone else wants to, clarify that a little more.
I think if that's the understanding and that stands true, I don't see a problem with moving forward on this item and then tackling the other down the agenda. Especially if they're only related by the companies involved, not the actual property, right? Is that what I'm understanding?
Right, so, and it's not the property of North Point that was addressed in that YMCA letter, as I understand.
No.
Okay.
Right, yeah, the YMCA is seeking additional parking, potentially in the Centralia parking lot or elsewhere in close proximity. The North Point, again, the footprint of North Point was agreed upon, and I think what you're getting at, Joe, is when the city agreed to that footprint, it was to make sure that, number one, there's access to where expected parking for VA would take place, and number two, that it wouldn't encroach on the property that the city had previously agreed to deed over to the YMCA to support that project. So again, although they're related, this development agreement is specific to that footprint of the senior housing.
Were we, excuse me, emailed or mailed that agreement?
Yes, Friday.
Okay, that's from you?
We got like
The draft development agreement.
So many
is on there.
emails here. I don't know which is which.
I do have a copy of you.
Oh, I love
If that were the copy, thank you.
Another one?
I'm sorry, I only brought the one. That was Sue's job.
Well, I thought it was emailed to everybody.
It was sent
Well,
on
fine.
Friday at 4:07 PM. I have it right in front.
I noticed I
Yeah, I didn't
grabbed
I didn't
the
send it.
earlier version.
That's it.
Oh, here, probably an additional. There it is. Yeah, that's my only concern is, are we putting cart before the horse, being that we still have outstanding issues with other activities going on in that area? Folks got hand up?
I'll just make a quick comment, because I have been a part of a number of the discussions, and, I do think that the city's intent to offer land to the YMCA for parking, the YMCA has chosen not to use some of that for parking. They have certain outlots that they're choosing to use and market for certain purposes. These are all choices that the YMCA and Boys and Girls Club are making to benefit the YMCA and Boys and Girls Club. Really, the intent that this, the ask of the city that was made has been granted, and this project really does not impede whatsoever into any of that. I think there are a number of issues that need to be resolved yet for the YMCA and Boys and Girls Club project. I know as a staff member, I don't see those as insurmountable issues. I think in most cases, we've already offered potential solutions for those. Some of them will require some action by the city. But like Adam said, they are really separate issues, and approving this project in no way would have an effect on the resolution of the issues that still are outstanding with the, with the YMCA project.
So we're just talking about their footprint that they have with down there.
Yep, again, that was the footprint that was originally agreed to in that offer to purchase.
And would it be fair for me to say that actually the North Point development footprint, I guess that's the way we should look at it, because the Wise concern actually hasn't changed.
Correct.
So I think it's the Wise plans that might have changed or something just going on with that. But
Yeah, as they continue to discuss with VA, there
okay. So that's
seems to be
still
a
fluid.
continued need for additional parking, and that has created some angst. And we've worked with North Point. I mean, they have bent over backwards, quite honestly, North Point has. They've worked with us to revise the parking lot design for Centralia. Again, even though that's not their property, they're working with us to try and accommodate the needs of not only trying to accommodate the YMCA, but also the community theater and the other tenants existing in Centralia. Their last proposal was done completely at their cost, which showed our ability to capture another 40 spaces, give or take there, to get that number north of 100 spaces that would still remain on the lot. So again, they've continued, even though it's not their property, they have worked with us to try and accommodate that situation.
Okay. And I don't think this is the first time this issue has came to the committee as far as the YMCA parking. We discussed it with them the past couple meetings, and we offered, I
It's a
believe, to
closed session.
share. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was just gonna say that. I think that was
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah.
Mr. Chairperson.
Yes.
Can I ask Paul the clerk if he's got the minutes from that special meeting where we had approved the initial, I guess the affirmation for this North Point project? When was that? December, January?
I can look.
Because maybe that might clarify something on the
Special meeting?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it was December 5th of 2017, it appears. And the finance committee met, and then there was a special council meeting, it looks like, right after. Okay, in open session, it was moved by Zerflu and seconded by Dolan to accept the offer to purchase vacant land conditional upon a developer's agreement, which will include but not be limited to shared parking agreements, driveway access, developer's fee, and minimum increment. The offer shall not include the city land intended to support YMCA Boys and Girls Club developments. And that was motion carried unanimously. Does that answer your question?
Well, you answered the question in terms of you've read the minutes, but what do they actually mean? So yeah, I guess.
And North Point is upholding their, I mean, they're
In my
following that?
opinion, yeah.
Okay.
Again, I myself would just feel more comfortable if everything was resolved and everybody was.
Well, we're contractually obligated to work out a development agreement for the lot that we are going to sell them. And it just relates to things that happen on their lot. So what are the things that are happening on their lot in terms of the provisions we've made in this that are of a concern, I guess?
Good point.
You know, I mean, I realize there's other issues, but that's gonna need to be determined later, and they have these credits that they really need to get going, and if we lose this ability for this taxable entity on that land, I think that would be a mistake. But, and I think we have to get this development agreement by the end of this month, I believe. But, I mean, this development agreement does not address anything regarding the Y property or Y parking or anything like that. And it's just regarding the property that we're selling to them, that we've already contractually agreed to sell them, so.
Yeah, so the issue I have, and I pardon myself, Mr. Chairperson, but the issue I have, and it's just by Paul reading back the minutes that said that this should not interfere with the Boys and Girls Club YMCA parking, with the VA parking, and that was read off in the minutes on December 5th.
Well, but this is but it's not interfering because it's the land that you've already agreed to sell them.
Yeah, this doesn't, it's a different issue.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was a property line. Originally, the concept plan that was presented by North Point actually had a
And then
north
we moved-
property line that
right.
encroached on the property that we were gonna sell to the YMCA. And so that language specifically was added so that line would move south, so
Right.
that it did not interfere with the YMCA and the VA center parking. That's what it was in reference to.
And I think what the interest is, well, I'm not sure how much we can even talk about that at this meeting, but I'm not sure that they had any interest in this space that I saw, but.
I was just listening to the minutes and what I heard was slightly different, but Adam cleared it up for me and I wasn't aware of that. That's why I was asking, so thank you.
Okay, well, there is a motion on the floor to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Thanks again, Adam. Item number 5, consider approval of a temporary Class B retailer's license application submitted by Encourage Community Foundation Incorporated for the community picnic to be held on August 1st, 2018. We do have the application. Did you have anything you wanted to speak to about that? Okay.
No, I don't think so.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second. Motion and second to approve. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0, Paul. Item number 6, consider a request from Wisconsin Rapids Municipal Court to implement a graduated bond schedule for citations issued to juveniles 16 and under for possession of drug paraphernalia, section 25.17, parent 4 of the municipal code. And we do have that in front of us also. Did you want to speak to that, Judge?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So some citation, the ordinance allows for the issuance of citations. Citations have been issued. I've been asked what is the amount of forfeiture should apply. It's like, whoops, we need to have the cart and the horse and connected, and we didn't. And so we need to have some penalty provisions in existence, obviously, and we don't. And so we need to get things righted with regards to that. And so what amount would be appropriate? That's really more of a legislative type of issue than it is a judicial one. My thought was to go ahead and tie it into the underage drinking ordinance and use the same penalty structure. This actually, I think, is the same penalties that would apply to adults. I don't think it's appropriate to go any lower. So whatever you, the committee wants to do with regards to this, it just needs something in place so these citations can be properly addressed.
I move to approve.
I'll second. There is a motion and a second to approve the request from Wisconsin Rapids Municipal Court for juvenile possession of drug paraphernalia. Does anyone not have the schedule? Any discussion on the issue?
I mean, this just applies to juvenile, and we're just putting something in place that should always been in place, but really wasn't, correct? Yeah, okay.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Judge.
Don't mind, everybody else seems to stay, but I'm
No,
gonna-
go ahead.
Absolutely. Next item.
I think it's adults.
I'm not sure if that's for our adult ordinance.
Which he would also be the judge of.
Yes.
Sure.
It might pay to have you.
Sure.
Okay. That's up to you. Item number 7, consider an ordinance amending section 25.17, parent 4 of the municipal code, increasing the maximum fine amount for possession of drug paraphernalia from $500 to $1,500, with a bond deposit of $250 for a first offense, $750 for a second offense, and $1,500 for a third offense, with offenses counted in a rolling 12-month period. And by rolling, I assume that means all 3 offenses would have to be in a 12-month.
Starting with the first offense.
Okay. Shane?
I don't know if we've had several discussions on this, and some lengthy ones, and I think we've come down to having a step such as you do for the juvenile. Any thoughts on those fines amounts, or? I'm in favor of it. I'm in favor of having least up. Because before it was $500 and it was just whatever was set. But now having I guess a graduated level to multiple offenses, such as a juvenile, would seem to make sense.
That does make sense. I don't know, because I didn't prepare for how this relates to what would be issued if it's a state violation. So in other words, if you have an officer who's issuing a citation in the city and they say, okay, fine, I'm going to go, this is going to be a first offense, I'll go ahead and issue this as a municipal forfeiture action versus a criminal penalty. Those are the kind of things that you want to make sure they're graduated in with. And I don't know the answer to that. Maybe you do, Mr. Chairman, with regards to what would happen if you're saying, no, you've been rude, you did this intentionally, this may be the first time in the last 12 months, but you had 8 of them 2 years ago, you knew exactly what was going on. You know, those are the things the officer kind of takes into account with regards to what they're going to issue and how they're going to handle it. And so I don't know how this fits within the context of that bigger picture, but it does make sense to have it graduated so that if there is a second or third, you're giving the officer him or her more options as far as it's not just the first, and which is down here the same level, and then to go criminals way up here, and so you have that problem. So I would think this is logical in doing that, but I just don't know where that criminal step starts or how that works.
And that is something I thought about after we approved this at a committee of the whole or special meeting.
Yes.
You potentially could run into problems. Like what I was thinking was, officer discretion. One officer might do it completely different from another. So what if someone has 2 priors, but they just charge them with a state charge now? Maybe just the opposite way, because they were being cooperative, and the state charge has I don't remember what the fine amount is, but I think it's $500 or something like that. So it's almost like.
But it goes under criminal record on.
Criminal, and I would want to make sure that we wouldn't count any criminal offenses. Obviously, you wouldn't say, well, he's got a state charge, so I'm going to write him a second offense, forfeiture. Or, and also, you wouldn't count priors until they're convicted, which I don't know what the time scale could potentially vary within municipal court, but
It's probably quicker.
I would assume so, but on the state level, it's not always so. It's just some things
You could try this and see how it works, and you're going to get feedback if it doesn't work. I mean, that's not always the way you want to go to see if it fails, but I think that sometimes you really don't know how things play out fully until you give them a shot. And I don't think it's going to harm anybody other than the person who's paying the higher forfeiture. But this is a level of communication with them that this is not acceptable, and that's where you're making a policy, moral decision on behalf of the community as far as what's acceptable and what's not, and how unacceptable it is.
And ultimately, even if they're paying $1,500 on a municipal citation, it's still not a criminal offense.
Right.
Which is a lot better.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Yeah. So, the first offense is actually limited at half of what it potentially could be, and that's one thing that kind of I think brought me around to this, rather than saying 1,500. You learned your lesson, or hopefully, and if you didn't, well, I mean,
no, it's your choice.
It should graduate. I mean, I think it should. Mm-hmm. So, yes, sir.
Yeah, we've spoke on this several times, but my stance remains the same on this. This is too broad. I think when we look at the talk between the community, it's a lot about heroin overdoses and what would be considered harder drugs that are plaguing us. Something like this, again, it's going to hit some people who, for example, are using marijuana. Oftentimes can be young kids. I mean, we look at a $1,500 fine, can someone really afford that? And these are all things I've stated before, with the concern being that if they don't pay that fine, it's going to result in a warrant, which then takes our law enforcement away from things like cracking down on heroin and methamphetamine. So with it being that broad and being that it would lump all this in together and could really pull from our real problems, I mean, I just have a hard time being in favor of that, especially when we look at communities like Stevens Point, Madison, even at the state level, they're rolling back fines and laws on things like marijuana. So that's my thoughts on that.
I do think potentially, though, Shane hit on this a little while ago, you know, it's still not a criminal charge. I think with a flat fee, an officer checks, you know, a CIS or whatever and sees that, well, he's already, you know, got one. Well, would you rather pay a lower fine but potentially get jail time on top of it and then have a criminal record? Or, you know, possession is possession, so you're still gonna get a, you know, a state charge on, you know, possession of heroin. I don't know, I think this makes sense and it's graduated now, and I think that shows, you know, you obviously aren't getting the hint if you're up to $1,500 in 12 months even. I mean, it's a choice. Yeah. I mean, it's no different than, you know, OWI or underage drinking. I mean, the fines escalate and the punishment escalates. It's, you know, that's my thought. But any other discussion? I'll make a motion then to approve the ordinance amending section 25.17, parent 4 of the municipal code, increasing the maximum fine amount for possession of drug paraphernalia from $500 to $1,500 with the stipulated graduation schedule.
I'll second that.
There is a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Aye. Motion carries 2-1. Did you feel that, Paul? Yes. Okay. Item number 8, consider a contract with Shallows Nursery. Thank you again, Joe.
Thank you.
For landscape and garden improvements outside of the Lowell Center, Centralia Center, and acceptance of a donation from the Wisconsin Rapids Senior Center Association Incorporated to pay for the majority of those improvements. This is when we're doing the round game. Whoever wants to talk.
Well, I guess in absence of anyone else, if you recall in the 2018 budget, the Lowell Center put a project, the garden project, in their budget, of which the city agreed to fund $11,000, and as part of that, they're soliciting donations, of which we've got the $15,000 from the Senior Center Association. They've gotten some other gifts and things like that, and I guess at this point they went out to bid for it. I don't know if you know any more about
I think they just contacted
Shell. Right.
Not aware of anybody else besides Shell. They got proposals for work.
Right. And so as part of that, the city was going to do some, I think you've seen referral, some in-kind match with doing some work with the concrete work, part of that project, and basically the shallow contract would be funded with the donations of that. We've received to date about $18,000. They just raised another $5,000, plus they have another memorial coming in. So it looks like the city's contribution to this will be the $10,000 in-kind match of our crews working on the concrete work, and then the actual shallows contract will be funded with their private monies from the donations that they've received.
So the total project is more in the mid-30s?
It's 23 for shallows and then 10,000 that we're going to do some concrete work there.
Virtually what they're doing is on the east side of the building. They're creating some raised gardens in there with some walks that are going from garden to garden or whatever. Right now they have some raised gardens there, but the people that are wheelchair bound or whatever aren't able to go out there and enjoy those areas, so they want to run walks from garden to garden so that they can enjoy those areas.
And this layout in the packet is what they're looking to move forward with? Or?
I believe so, yes. I don't have a packet. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's the map that I was provided with.
Is there an estimate on how much that's going to cost? I mean, is it around 10 or
For what?
the concrete or that we're doing?
It's not to
10,000,
exceed.
not to exceed 10,000.
Okay. I was just wondering if this is the plan they have, maybe they already have a cost set aside for that, or I mean, determined that we would know how much of the 10,000 they're gonna use.
Yeah, I don't know where, I don't think we gave them a proposal at all, they just asked us to do the work.
Okay.
What side of the building is that on? Or-
East side, Third Avenue side.
Right along Third Avenue.
Oh, okay.
Like I said before.
Or like the old
City
Montessori
allocated
space was,
11,000.
but it's
Okay.
right space.
Yeah, I just was wondering if there's, 11,000, we go out there and kind of do whatever, or if there's like, this is what we're gonna do, it's gonna be about 6. So, but-
I'll make them,
Sorry, Shane.
you're fine.
With this being an in-kind contribution in terms of labor, I just want to make sure that the street department guys don't interfere with the carpeting removal. So,
Yeah.
so can you schedule that, Paul?
Yes.
Thank you.
Shane,
I'll make a motion to approve.
a second. There is a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Item number 9, consider approval of a special events application submitted by Heart of Wisconsin Chamber of Commerce for an event called Betty Boop Festival. The event would be on August 11th, 2018, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. The applicant is requesting the closures of 1st Street, 2nd Street, the East Grand Avenue Bridge, and 1st Avenue, as well as vending and suspension of the open container ordinance. I believe it's the same as last year.
Well, actually, it's been a while since we've done the
Oh,
Betty
it
Boop
has?
Fest. Yeah, last time we had it was 2012, so we're resurrecting it.
It just seemed like last year.
I know. So we're bringing it back, and I believe it's, I think it's around the same kind of layout that they've had, but we want to try to bring it down a little bit towards the historical museum, to bring the historical museum into it as well.
Because they have a display of Betty Boop and stuff in
They
there.
have some, but then the historical marker for Grimnap
Is right there.
Yeah, I like that idea because when I talk to people, like my neighbors, their family just moved to town a few years ago, they don't even know we have a museum. So it helps bring awareness to
Yeah, that
something
way
good
you
we have
get
in our
some more
community.
people in
Yeah.
there.
And it'll be till 3, but the street closures, I think, is
Yeah,
like
it's still like 10
till
to
5.
4 or
I think it's-
5.
Clean up.
On a Saturday, I just made sure that's.
Yep.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve.
second. There's a motion and a second to approve the application. Any discussion?
The only question I have is, and this is a little bit more towards Joe, I think this is Joe and Terry. I think this is great, and I think we should do more of this. My question is, without that triangular project moving forward, we're just not built there, is there an opportunity for you to do something there? Maybe not the Betty Boop, but I mean,
Well, eventually, yeah.
Yeah, there's
I think that's a great
definitely
spot.
something that the Heart of Wisconsin considered, yeah.
yeah, because it's a great spot, and right now it's an empty lot, and I don't know if it's safe, and I wanted to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's a
know
good
we
idea.
did hold
What a great location.
Yeah.
Zach's up there, we did Sue was there, I'm trying to remember what they called it.
How do you remember that?
Block.
We did
I remember the cooler, the truck park.
There's a block party there.
We
Yeah,
did
the
block
car
party.
block party, yeah.
There's a
So
band
that would
and-
maybe something to like bring back here and do something, or with the music and stuff down by the park.
I'll tell you, I think it's a great location, and in lieu of the fact that we haven't moved forward, and, I heard there's some on the books, but, until that happens or whatever, I mean, it's
Might as well use
an
it.
ideal location.
Yeah, that's true.
I would encourage you guys to do whatever you can, because I
Sure.
think everything you guys do is great as far as getting the community involved, and, even that night at the Raptors, I think that's all good stuff, and like I said, it's a prime location.
Agreed, so we'll take it back and take it into consideration.
There's a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Item number 10, consider approval of a temporary Class B retailer's license application submitted by the Heart of Wisconsin Chamber of Commerce. Oh, wait. We just did that.
No, this
No,
is,
this is-
Oh, there's two
this is,
separate ones.
this
Oh.
is the temporary.
Oh.
The beverage license.
Yes.
I just saw Betty,
You're
I saw
correct.
Betty
Betty
Boop
Boop.
and I thought, wait a minute, what's going on? Okay. Item 10, I'll start over. Consider approval of a temporary Class B retailer's license application submitted by the Heart of Wisconsin Chamber of Commerce for an event called Betty Boop Festival on August 11th, 2018. And that's it.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second. Motion is second to approve. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Now item number 11. Consider approval of a special events application submitted by Wood County Breastfeeding Coalition for a 5K and 10K run to be held on August 4th, 2018 from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. The event will start at the zoo and utilize the bike path for the entirety of the race. Unfortunately, I won't be able to run in that.
You can clap along.
Let's be honest, you weren't running anyway.
I would.
I gotta get one.
Anyone want to have a need to speak on the application?
This has been done before, hasn't it been?
Not in the last 2 years at
Okay.
least. It's the event, they rented out Helen's house, and the event has, I don't believe it has vending, but it doesn't have street closures, so that's like a perfect special event in my opinion. But, no, I have no problems with it.
Are they gonna block off the bike path though from just recreational users during it?
As they pass by?
I'm not sure. It takes place, and it's going to go outside the city limits and come back as well. But the event, what did they say? What was their estimated attendance? Was around, I said up to 250, I believe.
I would think that would draw a pretty good crowd.
So that's a lot of cars.
Yeah, do we got enough parking?
Yeah. Because there's not much at the zoo.
Yeah, I mean, for road races though, like people are willing to. I mean, if you're going to run a 5K, you should be willing to park a couple blocks away and walk to the starting line. But
Probably be
that's coming from a former runner, so.
Yeah, I suppose.
Good golf carts to take.
Yes, I mean, seemingly it would. I haven't really had a lot of contact with Amber, the event organizer. But yeah, I mean, seemingly for the race time, the bike path would be quite congested, I'm assuming. Because it's an out and back down the bike path, basically running into Port Edwards and come back.
Yeah, and I mean, you're crossing Seneca Road,
I was gonna say, that's probably the.
yeah, because I know exactly where you get a 5K. Several years ago, I used to run that stretch.
You want that too, huh?
Yeah.
Your scooter?
I didn't break bones back then, but.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second. Motion is second to approve the application. Any other comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Agenda item number 12. Consider an original alcohol beverage retail license application submitted by Melissa Polzin for the premises located at 140 2nd Street North, doing business as the New Body Shop, Melissa Polzin, agent.
So just for backstory, they did not complete their obligations as far as personal property taxes and payment of the license, and they have been closed since midnight on June 30th. And the police has been monitoring that to make sure that they have not had any activity. And now they're applying, or Melissa is applying to start up again. And their license is available.
But it is considered like a new application,
Yes.
not a renewal. Okay.
Correct.
I mean, with that being said, it's a new application. I mean, if we're gonna approach this type of business as we're just gonna run these through and approve these, I mean, we could have this popping up all over town if we set that precedence. I think the location, especially when we look at it from a city perspective, it is close to that triangle block that we own as a city, and I've talked to several residents about this, and with the downtown vision of what residents have, and I think what we as a city are pushing forward, I don't know if this really ties into it, this type of business. Also, one resident mentioned to me that they thought there might have been security issues in the past. I don't think we have anything on record of that, but they said that they weren't sure if there was always a bouncer on duty, and they had concerns with that, so.
Did the police, what did
gonna say, have there been any complaints?
You know, the only contact I've had with them is they just made sure that on June 30th at midnight,
But
business
they
was
should
ceased.
review the application and such as a new application and probably went and inspected the premises.
The chief is
fire.
aware that they have taken out application.
Have they had any, do you know if they've had any issues this past year or any law enforcement issues or?
Not any that were of note,
Okay.
or at least they didn't raise any to me.
So, just a question, if that's okay? Are the personal property taxes and everything paid up now?
Yes.
Yes.
Do we have reason to deny them?
Well, you don't really
'Cause
have
there's
to have a
no-
reason to deny because it's an initial, I
Oh,
mean,
yeah,
it's an
it's not a
initial,
renewal.
so,
Yeah. It's
you know, it's not, they don't have the protections of a
Renewal.
of a
yeah.
renewal. I mean, it would be good to lay the foundation of why
Why,
you're,
right.
right.
Well, and I think
exactly.
I covered on some of that for the most part.
Well, if you're gonna, I mean, have a business like this, that's probably where you'd want it located.
But I mean,
That's where the police.
do we want a business like
presence
this?
is.
though? I mean, there's other counties and cities that
Plenty of.
don't allow this, and for good reason. So I'm just thinking, you know, is it attracting the right crowd? Is it? I know it is downtown is the right spot, but we got some projects going down there. Is that would be?
I guess my thought on every time I read that a municipality enacts something, you look at the problems Saratoga is having. Grand Rapids, I believe, had issues with this when one wanted to open up there.
That's an ordinance, I believe.
And my only problem is that, like, when you kind of act reactively as opposed to proactively, it just seems like, you know, this came up, so it's like, oh wait, do we want this kind of, you know, I don't know if that's.
Well, this would be proactive in that it's considered a new application right now.
Yeah, because they let it lapse.
Right.
So
So if we wanted to.
But
People
I haven't
would
been
be
involved in
fine.
any discussion.
Yeah.
You know, that maybe we want to change it, but.
I guess, you know, is that something that I care to take part in any point in my life? No, but at least there's a boundary there where I'm gonna throw it back with the drug paraphernalia, you know, it's like, what kind of activities we want in our community. I guess I see at least this is regulated with a bouncer, and they've got closed windows. If you don't care to go there, you just don't go. You know, so as long as the community's supporting it, it's still gonna stay in business. If it's something the community doesn't want, they won't go, and eventually it'll shut down. It's just kind of my thoughts.
I thought you said you weren't eloquent today. That was perfectly put. That was my point.
So I guess if we're regulating activities, at least this one is regulated by 21 years of age. Because technically they could open up like they have in the past and had 18-year-olds there because they served juice and soda. So the activity could still continue, but at least under having an alcohol license, it's regulated that nobody can go in there at least until you're 21. But years ago that they had that issue and they opened up and there was 18-year-olds in there. And so then we had the issue anyways, but now it just included 3 more years of ability to go there. That's my concern.
Yeah, I feel like when you go to a city like Stevens Point or Wausau, or I mean, pick a neighboring city and you stroll through their downtown area, this isn't typically the type of business you see down there. And if we want to really revitalize that and make it be more of an area like you see in those places, I mean, this is the route we want to continue on because we've.
I don't disagree with your
I don't
premise
either.
at all. I want to make that clear. It's just, you know, it's probably something we should.
Once they get those
Forward
renewal
with-
protections, I mean, we're going to be.
No, you're right.
They're going to be stuck with that. So.
Mm-hmm.
Any other discussion? There's no motion on the floor at this time. I'll make a motion then to approve the original alcohol beverage retail license application submitted by Melissa Polzin for the premises at 142nd Street North, doing business as the new body shop Melissa Polzin agent.
I'll reluctantly second.
There is a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nay. Motion carries 2-1. Agenda item number 13, consider an original alcohol beverage retail license application submitted by Bottoms Up Bar LLC for the premises located at 126 2nd Street North, doing business as Bottoms Up Bar, Jason Burkholt's agent. Is this the same issue, Paul?
Yeah, same thing. It's actually pretty close to the body shop that would be.
It's right next to Fire Rocks.
Yeah.
Like the,
Oh,
it used
yeah.
to be
Cheers, was
Big
it?
Al's.
Big Al, okay.
Big Al's.
Jerseys, there you go.
Was it Jersey?
Oh man, that was before my time.
I don't even recognize that name.
That was a couple years ago. Dated myself.
You were still in high school.
Wow.
Probably junior
Was
high.
I even in high school?
Junior high.
I don't know where I was.
That's fine. Yeah, okay.
Alright. Oh, no, I was just gonna say, I've been in there, I mean, it's a nice run establishment, they got karaoke and, I mean, it's a regular bar as far as things go. So I'll make a motion to approve that.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second to approve the beverage operator license original application for Bottoms Up Bar. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Item number 14, consider an energy innovation grant through the Wisconsin Office of Energy Innovation and Public Service Commission of Wisconsin.
Did you let the mayor know that it's time to call him?
I did.
Okay, because I
Do you want us to skip this?
this was his item, and he was gonna call in, so I'm not sure. There he goes, right on cue.
Wow.
Hello?
Hey, good afternoon, everybody.
Okay, we're on, we just introduced item 14, consider an energy
Yep.
innovation grant.
From Washington, thank you.
Yep.
Did you want to speak to it?
Sure, I was going to indicate that I had sent the correspondence yesterday pertaining to the grant. We did get information this afternoon around the threshold that they would suggest applying for that would cover a feasibility and further analysis of city properties and city buildings, as well as our fleet as it pertains to sustainability measures. And they suggested between 15 and 20,000. There is no match requirement, local match requirement. There are some other entities that are following the process, and depending on who gets awarded, there could be implementation grants, but this grant request is specifically for feasibility dollars to support a feasibility study. The city had done a number of energy efficiency upgrades in the 2009, 2010, 2011 with the remodel of City Hall, as well as some other outlying properties. But this would allow us to take a look at, now as new technologies have come along, as well as analyze our fleet, which was excluded at the time, to ultimately reduce our cost of operations. And so it's a grant through the PSC, the Public Service Commission of Wisconsin, and the Energy Innovation Office, I believe they call themselves. The grant was extended a month. It sent in my message yesterday. I didn't anticipate that we would apply, but we were contacted because it seemed like there was a lack of interest, and obviously the extended deadline seemed to be something that we might be able to comply with. The Sustainability Council has, since probably 2010, before my time, had compiled a report on various baseline data of energy consumption, as well as consumption of fossil fuels, etc. And so I think it's a worthwhile effort to pursue, if there wouldn't be any local match or any obligation at this time, nor would there be an expectation of implementation of any of the recommendations. The library had completed a solar project, and I think this would allow us to consider a review or analysis of other city buildings that might be worthwhile for us to improve our renewable energy consumption.
So Mayor, you're just looking for a motion to approve applying for this grant?
That's correct. Our policy states that we have to seek approval, and at this point, we would seek approval, and then we would update you as to the status of the grant. I'm guessing if we're awarded, there would be a competitive process for us to select respective vendors to actually perform that service. So there would be at least one more step in the process should we be successful in receiving a grant.
Lee?
Excuse me, Mayor, do you know or have any idea of what possibly the grant would, or not the grant, but the, I'm at a loss for words, what the survey is gonna cost?
There was a question pertaining to the survey, the cost of the feasibility study and the analysis?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, it's hard to hear whoever that was.
Yeah, it's Lee Graham.
Essentially, that's what we were trying to understand. What generally would be an audit cost for an audit or a similar service, and that's where we came up with the $20,000. But that's what would be appropriate. That's the Public Service Commission saying, from their experience of other communities that have done this type of analysis, and it may come in way less, but at this point, we would be asking the Public Service Commission for a $20,000 grant is my recommendation.
And that would cover the whole cost?
Right, there would be no local match for the project, at least the way we're going to request it. We're not offering any local match, nor am I requesting one through the grant application tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Any others? I'll make a motion then to apply for the Energy Innovation Grant through Wisconsin Office of Energy Innovation and Public Service Commission of Wisconsin with no local match.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I'm going to hang on the line for some of the other items here yet.
Item number 15, review and consider approving a consultant to develop a master plan for the city garage site located at 1411 Chase Street.
So our referral is attached. Virtually back in the spring of 2017, we came to this committee with some projects for the city garage, and in that project list we had speaking to a consultant to develop a master plan and or future needs of the city garage. As you guys are aware, there is a project down at the West Side Lift Station that may require us to relocate the current sign shop that is down there at that site. And we don't just want to go and plop it on our 12-acre property. You know, if sometime in the next 20 to 25 years the city garage has to be rebuilt or whatever. So we sent out a request for proposals, and we had 4 consultants send back proposals. Joe Terry and I then interviewed the 2 consultants that we thought to make sure that we were getting everything that we requested in our in the RFP, and as it says in there, we did not have that completed prior to submitting the referral. So it's our recommendation based on the interview process that CUNY Architects, they're out of Pleasant Prairie, is best going to meet our needs, and we'd like to move forward with them. Some of the other architects, you know, as you can see on the proposals, it ranges from $5,500 to $37,000, and there's another one that's in the middle 20s. The 2 higher consultants were going to go to like a 50% plan set. That's really not what we're looking for them to do. It's to simply look at the operations that we currently have and the space that we currently have to tell us, you know, it makes sense to continue to remodel the space that we have, or it makes more sense to kind of plan obsolescence, you know, and move forward with something else, you know, who knows what that future range is.
So the staff recommendation is the Caney Architects. What's the difference between them and the Barrientos Design and Consulting? Because they come in 3,000 under, so are we
Yeah,
getting-
so it's, so Barrientos was very limited amount of schematics, and very, not spending much time on looking at, how the property is used and the operations that we currently do. Also, CUNY Architects, 95% of their work is municipal work, and not strictly just municipal buildings, but, fire stations and, city garages and, town halls and city halls and stuff like that. So their specialty is that, and we felt that they were, more professional isn't the right way to say it, but they were better at this than what Barrientos was.
Okay.
Also, if you look at their completed projects, they have in our opinion, they have a really good feel as to what the industry is. A lot of their estimated projects, their actual bid numbers came in within less than 15% difference in the bid, and then the final project was less than, 5, most of it was down in that 1 to 5%. We had a few that were $100,000 difference, but it just seemed like they were really good at what they did, and they didn't have, $250,000 change orders. It's not fair to the treatment plant, but they didn't have a lot of change from their original designs or what have you. And so we were just looking, who knows what this is going to come back at, but long term, you're forming a relationship with somebody that, may end up taking you to the next step, and you don't have to redo what you just did in this step.
Right,
So-
which is really valuable.
Yep.
A couple of things too that we wanted to focus on during the interview was questioning them to get a grasp of their understanding and how they plan to do their research. One of the things that Paul had mentioned, one of our goals is to relocate the sign shop. We feel that having that staff on site is going to allow for better value use of that staff at times when maybe some of the sign shop activities aren't as busy. Potentially we can reassign that staff. We don't want to, like Paul said, we don't want to put a building there and then have to tear it down or relocate it in a few years. But there's also some more immediate needs, office space needs, things like that. We want to evaluate that within this project to determine, does it make sense at this point to do some remodeling and improve some efficiencies, potentially relocate some staff into these offices so that we can have some team activities essentially, rather than having staff located at different sites. We felt that this proposal and their vision really highlighted that. The amount of time that they intended to spend on site evaluating the site itself was, like Paul said, I think that was the real difference between the two. I've had an opportunity to see some presentations by Barrientos, very impressed with their work. I've been to the Oshkosh City Garage, for example. Our recommended architect did the design and construction of that facility. It's a magnificent facility. It's extremely efficient. Their focus is to improve the longevity of equipment, which is getting more and more expensive and difficult to replace. So at the end of the day, we felt that the dollar amount difference would be a good value to the city, and that is still well under the $20,000 that we had budgeted for this particular project.
Just out of curiosity, kind of maybe a little unrelated, but once this new project or the wastewater project is done, will that building technically be obsolete for wastewater use? Because before there was more of a connection. Okay.
Yes, that said, we are evaluating the condition of the building, what it may be able to be used for. It's certainly architecturally very interesting, right? It's a neat building, and we've had conversations about making sure that we've done due diligence, that we're not going to throw away a potential asset. But because of the time period it was built, and the existing codes, reuse of the building might be very complicated and expensive because of access issues, things like that. So we do need to evaluate that. We need to evaluate the efficiencies of the building itself and whether or not, wastewater is paying a good part of that now. And to try to capture and understand what types of costs would the city have when wastewater is not participating in that, and can we still afford to have a sign shop there, or is there a return on investment, a short return on investment to build another smaller facility adjacent to or on our existing City Garage campus?
Yeah, I agree. I think it makes sense if you could consolidate all that under one location.
The other thing that was interesting when we conducted the interview also was Cooney's interest in all of the city's assets as far as age and things like that, and looking at that site, since the street department campus is a pretty good size site, at some point in time, we know, and I haven't discussed this with the fire department yet, so but we know that the West Side Station is going to need replacement sometime in the future, and would it make sense to co-locate that along with the city garage? Are there some efficiencies there? And what was interesting is they brought that up. So we just really felt that there was a very good fit in their investigative practices and evaluation and the work that they've done with other municipalities, that they would provide the best value.
And one of the things that Joe didn't touch on, and I didn't either the first time, is one of their things that they look at is the way that we do business. So they conduct interviews with both managers and staff, and then by looking at the current structure of the building and their proposed structure, is part of the thing that they do is say, based on their past experiences, by doing work this way, you are going to create these efficiencies, and they can, because of their past experience, they can associate a cost savings, with switching on how we do business currently.
Lee?
Just for clarification, so this is not just a site overview of the campus at the City Garage, but this is also the renovation or potential renovation design for the interior, for the design, or for the, no?
So this would just be conceptual, basic floor plans, no real design. There would be some estimates if, based on the type of architecture desired, they would include cost for options if you were to build this building as a block fascia building or a steel building or whatever, to give us an idea. But it's floor plan and general layout is the objective here.
But floor plan of the existing building or floor plan of the new building?
Both. Floor plan of the existing building as it may or may not be modified. We're asking for 3 conceptual options that aren't just plan A and let's throw something together for plan B and C, but 3 representative options that would be probably hotly debated as far as what's the best for the city long term. Whether it's renovating some of our existing structures that may be completely practical, or reviewing the current layout and coming to the conclusion that we may need to do some of both. Some of the mechanics area is a newer part of the building. For efficiencies, is it pay to keep some of that? And that's what the objective is to develop essentially a working floor plan, and not get into any real design as far as structural design. It's just conceptual, and with their experience are comfortable saying that based on the square footage, done enough of these projects, we can tell you if you want to do a building that looks something like this is what it's going to cost. If you want to renovate, this is about what it's going to cost. And we're looking at long term, just trying to make sure that we're being intelligent about what we're doing on site, and we just don't want to spend money twice. It's short enough the way it is.
Yeah, like I said, the reason I was asking was literally for I know you had talked about creating efficiencies by moving people and staff around within offices, and I just wanted to make
Correct.
sure that this was gonna encapsulate that as well. Not
Absolutely.
just the campus oversight, but
Nope.
what the projection, or what, possibly could be.
Right, we've identified those short-term goals
Yep.
for efficiency for our administrative work, as well as long-term goals of a sustainable future for the,
short-term
Uh-oh.
goals for
You need to turn the radio.
Hey, we're getting feedback, Mayor.
as well as long-term goals.
I muted him.
There you go. I think you hung up.
I hung up on him. Yeah, well, that's all right. I'll let him know. I'll text him.
We'll say Sue did it.
He'll see it in 8 seconds, so.
No, and
Did that answer your question? Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure we
It
were
does both.
capturing that, yeah.
Both short-term goals and trying to evaluate long-term goals so that we can plan and, and look for gaps in our financial schedule in the long term, so that we can plan some of these projects and try to figure out where they best fit in our long-term planning.
Thank you.
I guess real quick, 20 years ago, I was a summer help employee at the street department, and last year when I came and kind of looked at the street department building, it felt like I came there in a DeLorean with a flux capacitor because everything looked identical, but our services have changed dramatically over the last 20 years. So if we can definitely, and this really as far as consultants go, this is kind of a bargain if they can give us a need study for this. And then especially if we can implement something moving forward. So God, it's great.
Okay.
Well, all that being said, I'll make a motion to approve consultant to develop a master plan for city garage site.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second, and I think we need the correction.
Cooney Architects.
Oh, yep. Correct.
So there is a motion and a second to,
I can read it if you want. The
thank
motion
you.
is second to approve Cooney Architects as the consultant to develop a master plan for the city garage site located at 1411 Chase Street in the amount of $8,670.
all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Item number 16, audit of the bills for June 2018.
Those were sent in on Friday as well.
Those are sending probably a different one.
Yes.
Anyone have questions on the bills? No. Well, then I will make a motion to approve checks 72605 through 73067 and manual checks 99687 through 99720.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the bills for June. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Item 17, set next meeting date.
Oh, you're looking at the old agenda, I did add in beverage operator's license. I revised, I sent that yesterday because I just had I forgot to include that, and we want to do that monthly, so. But,
Did you send an updated agenda?
yes, yes.
Yeah, I got it open here.
All I did was add the beverage operator's license applications. And so
Ah, yes, okay, revised with the stars around it. You probably did that so we wouldn't miss it.
Well, I just want to make sure that we give out the provisional licenses for 60 days, and sometimes, depending on when they apply, it always makes it.
Okay.
They always make it, but if we didn't do it, then some of them, their provisional would run out, so. Wanted to make sure we got that in there, so. I'm not, there is one on the, yeah, there's that one in the.
Warrant?
Yeah, the $10 warrant, so I'm not sure what.
So if they pay it, they get the.
We just hold on to the license until it pays the warrant.
What business is it?
It'll be on the front of his
It's a
license.
personal.
It's for, yeah, it's for Quick Trip.
For an employee to.
Oh, okay.
Employee was $10.
Operator license.
Do we need to include that in the motion, or? You just won't issue it?
We can just hold on to it until that fine is, or that warrant's paid. And I mean, we work pretty closely with Karen, so.
This one, so these are ones with the sticky notes on them that have forms that wouldn't.
Yes, those are another ones that we'd hang on to.
We'd hang on to those too.
Yeah, so they need to take a responsible beverage server course before they can get a license. And some of them apply, because they get a provisional for 60 days, and they can take the course within
Okay.
60 days.
Why? Were you
Looks like you're ready to go.
This is a grand slam shirt. I wonder if I can do that sitting down.
G2 won't let you right in.
I wasn't good for mini golf. Everyone review them?
You're supposed to make the cut first.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the beverage operator license applications as presented.
I'll second.
Motion is second to approve the licenses. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Now, item number 17, set next meeting date.
First Tuesday?
August 7th, August 7th at 5 p.m.
Works for me.
Okay.
I would prefer the 7th. 14th is an election day.
Oh,
I like if we would just standard first Tuesday plan
I'm comfortable with that.
at 5. Then we can all put in our calendars unless there's some.
But we just like to set the meeting date so other people are aware of,
Oh.
take the referrals in and stuff. Because I think especially
That
with the new
helps too.
referral policy,
Yes.
we'll put this on all agendas because we'll have number of business days that the referrals due
Yeah.
before the meeting. So that way
First
we
Tuesday
earmark
of
it
the
in the minutes.
First
Everyone's
Tuesday
aware
of
of.
Continuity does
First
help.
Tuesday of the month.
Yeah, but I'm saying we just like to set it so that people are, even external to the application, they might not know that it's the first Tuesday that they see that meeting dates. That's all.
You can set them all now.
Yeah.
First Tuesday of the month.
Well, I know. We'll always put it in the minutes just so the next meeting.
Okay.
So that there's no confusion.
I'm not confused. I'm more confused when we keep swapping them.
Yeah.
Try being on 2. That means different days.
That doesn't make sense. Okay.
Item number 18, in open session, the committee will vote to go into closed session under section 19.85, parent 1, parent E of the Wisconsin statutes, which reads, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Sub A, in closed session, the committee will have a preliminary discussion regarding the sale of city properties. No final action will be taken. The committee will adjourn in closed session. I'll entertain a motion to move into closed session.
Second.
I guess you made it.
I guess I'll make a motion.